If you didn't know, I've been destashing my yarn, fabric, crafting supplies over the past few months by creating a bunch of unique projects. And I'm not stopping because today we are returning to what I'd like to call my bread and butter, a home decor project. We are making a destash pillow. So, new developments because sometimes a girly pop doesn't want to design a pattern. At least not completely. That girly pop is sometimes me. For the front of my pillow, I decided to punch the oval Lakeview pattern from the Oxford company. This pattern is free. I've linked it in the description of this video. I like Oxford company punch needle patterns because I find that there's a good balance of structure and room for creativity. I also just like trying punch needle patterns that other people design because I find that it helps whenever I'm dealing with a creative block. I printed the pattern out, cut it, and put it together and traced it onto my monk's cloth. I wasn't too worried about not getting all of the details in their exact place. I just wanted to make sure that I have the general idea of the pattern down, because tomorrow we would start punching, and we would start punching live. For those of you that don't know, I do stream here on YouTube. Unless I'm doing a special event like one of my punch-alongs, I don't even make an announcement, I kind of just hit the go live button. I thought it would be great for people to see my punch needle process in real time, and plus I'm trying to gain more watch hours so I can get fully monetized on YouTube. Definitely come join in if you want. I think it's pretty chill and cozy, awesome second monitor content, and you get to watch me deliberate on things like how to punch the sky of this pattern. Instead of punching the sky in straight lines, I decided to do a radial sky with a light to dark, gradient around the sun. Yes, in the original version of this pattern, this was the moon, but who cares? I'm switching it up. To indicate that this was, in fact, the sun, I punched it using some yellow yarn and did a few rays around it in yellow and white. I had hand-dyed these blue yarns a few months ago for a different project and decided to use what I had left over for the sky. Using the lightest shade of blue first, I decided to punch outwards from the sun. Personally, I struggle with light and shadow in my work, but it is just no fun to just punch flat 2D shapes all the time. So what better way to introduce more of this in my work than in a destash project? If you haven't been watching me since the start of the series, I originally started Destash Diaries because I was going through a creative block. I felt like I had used up all of my good ideas, which, now I can say was absolutely not true. I still got it, and I know I still got it because I came out with these videos in between uploads of my Destash Diaries videos. Did it mean I bought a little bit more yarn and dyed a little bit more yarn? Well, yes, but I used it up. I used it up, so hopefully I am still in the clear. Also, if you're wondering why there's a white border around the piece, it's because I needed some sort of a space keeper to know that I was punching in the right place. Spoiler alert, I did end up keeping it as part of the project, but you'll see more of that later. I continued working on the sky that day. I just wanted to get it done before the next time we punched, so that we could go live again with a fully finished sky. I continued with this project by punching the trees. Again, I wanted to play with light and shadow, so I'm punching with some lighter jade yarn where the sunlight would hit the tree the most, and then switching to a darker teal for the rest of the tree. You might recognize the darker teal as part of the color palette for Vernalium, my first punch needle pattern collection I released earlier this year. Fun Easter egg, I guess. Honestly, my live streams tend to be more of just me yapping than me talking about the technicalities of punch needle. You should know, however, that this darker tree back here, yeah, I pulled that out. I pulled it out and repunched it with some different yarn off camera because I just didn't like the way it looked on the front, but you'll see that later. Okay, day 4. Let's continue. I'm gonna grab some fun, warmer reds, purple violets, and browns for the background hills. I just want more colors and more variety for this pillow. I think because I punch so many flowers and nature scenes, I tend to use just too much green and blue. And some people tell me, Vrinda, that's your signature look, you should just embrace it. And to all of those well-meaning people, I'm so sorry, but when I think of green and blue, all I'm thinking of is that DIY TikToker copying drama from 2 years ago, where that girl was like, I painted my room green and blue, those are abnormal color choices. You know, I tried so hard to figure out a signature style over the past few years, but now I'm just embracing not having a signature style. My signature style is whatever I feel like punching or making at that very moment in time. So I'm gonna punch the grassy bits at the very front here, a different, warmer shade of green, just because I feel like using another yarn in this bluish green, jade teal shade was making everything blend in together too much, and I didn't like that, so I'm using a different shade. And this thinner yarn right here is actually from last year, when I got to do value dyeing for the first time during my Oxford punch needle certification lessons. What a throwback. I used a little bit of it here in my certification rug, but I wanted to use more of it up. I'm also using some of the red and purple from the background hills for the flowers in these grassy bits here. I love bringing back colors multiple times within a piece. I think it adds cohesiveness and it helps move the eye around the piece. I don't know. I never went to art school. I did get more done the next day, where I worked on the last part of the lake view. The lake! I don't know if you can tell here, but that blue I'm using for the lighter parts of the lake is the same blue that I used for the edge of the sky here. Again, continuity, uniqueness, nerve, talent. I filled in the rest of the lake with some darker blue yarn, snipped off my final yarn ends, and after 6 days of punching, we were finished. Well, almost. I was feeling fun and flirty and decided to add another border around the piece with the yellow yarn I used for the sun. We started off day 7 with steam pressing what would become our pillow and then very carefully zigzag stitching around it. I did this because I was terrified of my monk's cloth fraying. This was my safety net, in a way. Because now it was time to actually turn this piece into a pillow. I ironed and cut out a piece of scrap cotton flannel. Yes, I only ironed the little bit that I would cut out, work smarter, not harder, and then sewed the punch needle piece and the flannel together with my sewing machine. This is a technique I adopted from the Oxford company. I'll link the video in the description. Their video shows an envelope pillow backing, which mine is not, but you'll get the idea. I cut out the excess fabric and turned the pillow inside out, and voila! A punch needle pillow with a nice backing. I stuffed the pillow to the best of my ability with some polyfill and sewed the last open bit here together to fully close the pillow. I'm actually an understuffer. I'm really bad at knowing how much I'm actually supposed to add, but whatever, it's fine. And I wasn't too worried about the stitching looking messy here because we were going to cover it up anyways with some whip stitching. I've got a darning needle and some white yarn, and starting at one point, I whip stitched counterclockwise. I think whip stitching as a technique is so fun, and it really ties a piece together. I actually haven't done a whip stitch edge on a rug yet, but one day I will. I just need to find the right design and get my vision together. But for now, I'm happy doing it on smaller projects like this pillow. It does take a while to do though, because you want your stitching to look nice and uniform, so it took me until the next day to finish whip stitching. But once I was done that, I was done. And here we have the oval lake view pillow. I can definitely see it being an accent pillow in a cottage or rustic home. It doesn't fit so well in my home with our IKEA minimalist decor, but I do still like it. You know, for me, doing this project was really fun because I could use a lot of different colors and punch needles and techniques, and I could make something bigger. So for my next destash project, I think I want to continue on this trend. But until then, this is the end of this video. Hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching.